Go ahead. I mean, I can do it for you if you want.
I will. Welcome, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Our president has been a bit delayed, but she will arrive soon. So we'll call the regular meeting of March 6th to order. As we begin tonight's meeting, the board would like to take a moment to remember those who lost loved ones or who were injured in the high school shooting in Parkland, Florida. This senseless act of violence impacted students, educators, parents, and families in their community and across the nation. Please take a moment to think about them, the children and the school staff who cared for them, and those who continue to help them cope with the aftermath. We'd also like to remember Helen Jackson, the late Senator Scoop Jackson's wife. She was well known in our Everett community as a tireless contributor to local civic life and philanthropic causes. I'll ask that we take a moment of silence in honor of lives taken way too soon and of Helen Jackson's legacy to our community. Thank you. It is a joy to see such a full room tonight. Welcome, everyone. Glad to have you here. The next item on the agenda is a flag salute. Will everyone please join me in our flag salute? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will you please call the roll?
President Mason, Vice President Andrews,
Present.
Director Lassane,
Present.
Director Mitchell,
Present.
Director Wenta, Student Representative Parikh,
Present.
Student Representative Pollock.
Present. Thank you. Next item of business is adoption of agenda. Dr. Cohn, would you like to introduce the agenda?
Yes, certainly. Consistent with the plans established at your most recent summer planning workshop, tonight's agenda contains several elements related to both the district's strategic plan and the board's annual goals. There is a segment for routine business this evening. There's one for for recognition items, a segment for board comments, a segment for the superintendent's report, one for strategic progress reporting. You have a segment this evening for information items and one for new business and as well upcoming agenda items. Since we published the agenda to you, there have been a couple of minor changes. One, item 8.1, the superintendent's report. It'll be updated during the meeting as is customary for regular meetings. Item 11.2, 2018 election results. Documents were uploaded prior to the meeting to include the election update summary, a boundary map, and a precinct map for the Everett Public Schools. Item 11.2, safety and security update, was amended to include a safety and security summary document, and we uploaded that prior to the meeting. In all other respects, the agenda is as it was published to you. The board may elect to change the order of business by a majority vote of the members. Note, though, that this is not the point of the agenda to request items be removed from the consent agenda. So the agenda now is ready for your approval.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Approved. So
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Agenda is adopted. Next item is recognition of our PTSA Council 7.3.
That's right. Each year, the national PTA organizations and its state and local affiliates celebrate Founders Day. National PTA was founded in, 1897, when lots and lots of moms and dads and other folks convened in Washington, D.C. with a common goal of improving the lives of America's children. Dr. Sally Lancaster, who is our liaison to the PTSA in Everett Public Schools, is going to shepherd us through tonight's recognition. Dr. Lancaster.
Excellent. I would like to start by asking our PTSA Council and all of our PTA presidents to come join me up here at the lectern. Come on up. We're going to squeeze on up here. It's a powerful group that you see approaching. In January, right after the break, I received this postcard from the PTA Council, and it said, "This is your year to sparkle." This uplifting phrase was on the card, and this is the group that, while they're so busy working hard to help everyone else sparkle and shine, they work endlessly for that, and they send out an inspiring message. Come on. That reminds us all to remember to sparkle and to find our own inner shining. Tonight we're here to celebrate the wonderful PTSA leaders who support our schools. This is an opportunity to thank our councils and our local PTA presidents for their efforts and the work that they do to improve the lives of children. As of today, our district PTA has 5,080 members. Did you guys bring membership forms? Because I think we could sign some more up too. And if anyone's keeping track, that's 497 more than this time last year. Wow. So a huge increase, and for that we're really proud.
And a lot of that is from our council membership drive, so thank you to all our seniors.
Currently, our PTAs are recruiting leaders for the next school year, and many will be holding elections in the next month. And although the term officially begins on July 1st, they are already working. They work before their term starts, and they often work through the summer to make sure that they're ready when the kids and teachers come back in September. Also, our local PTA leaders dedicate themselves to many issues to support students, including the efforts for our 2018 levy and bond, where they were champions in spreading support and enthusiasm for the campaign, and they should be recognized for their efforts in helping that levy pass. So thank you very much. Parent involvement and leadership strengthens our schools and our community and brightens our sparkles. So we have a lot of people that wanted to say something to recognize you, but we've pared it down to just a few short ones. We're going to start. Well, you're not the short one, but Corbin is. Corbin, you can come on up. Principal Paddock from Monroe Elementary and Corbin Maxwell wanted to give you a message. Go ahead. Yep. Yes.
I love the PTA because they save money to do fun things like the dance dude.
Do you need the stand?
No, I don't think I need the stand. Thank you. Yes, Dance Dude is very popular at my school. Thank you for supporting that. PTA helps us sparkle and shine by creating opportunities for our students, such as family nights, skate nights, bingo and auction, classroom supplies and grants, field trips. The list goes on and on. Thank you so much for your support. We truly, truly appreciate it.
And Principal Dave Peters was going to come up and say a few words as well.
Well, just prior to assuming my position at Jackson High School, my predecessor told me, you're going to be the principal, but don't ever forget who helps keep the school running. So your secretaries, your custodian, and your PTSA. And over the last 5 years, I have seen that come true so many times, and I'm incredibly grateful for your support and your sacrifice and what you provide to our schools. And I'm very excited to be part of this very well-deserved recognition. So thank you very, very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peters. So in recognition of your hard work and accomplishments, we're going to give you a little sparkle. You will each get some flowers with this prism. And the prism has the ability to both reflect and disperse light, creating a magnificent sparkling effect. Just as our PTAs help us reflect the positive attributes of our school and disperse brightness, providing the conditions in our schools that help all of our students shine and sparkle and be successful. So with that, I'm going to ask my assistants here to help Dr. Scott, Mr. Fleckenstein, Principal Paddock, Mr. Peters, and Dr. Stewart to give you some flowers with a little prism.
So nice.
And we appreciate you all. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Aw, sweet.
Think you can gather everybody in front for a picture?
Oh, nice.
What do you think? Want to try?
Thank you.
That's what we're thinking.
Picture?
You want to try it?
For a group photo.
Let's get the board members down in front.
Okay, the board members are
Squish
going to come
everybody
down. We're going to
together.
squish in for a picture.
We're going to get somebody up on a chair.
Turn to the side. Okay, we can stack them.
A heartfelt thank you to all the PTSA members here tonight and all that aren't here tonight. I know you are often a behind-the-scenes support for all of our students and teachers and squeeze in your actions between taking care of kids and work and everything else. So thank you again for all you contribute. You do sparkle. And next item on the agenda is recognition of 2018 Prodigies for Peace competition winners. This will be delightful. Dr. Cohn?
Yes, each year the NAACP Snohomish County branch holds a celebration honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As part of the celebration, students are invited to submit essays and art for the Prodigies for Peace competition. Student work is judged by members of the community. And this evening we have first and second and third place and honorable mention awards. And we have more awards than we have ever experienced before. So we're going to ask in just a moment Dr. Lancaster to organize the the parade of prodigies. And before we do that, we're going to ask just for a moment Dr. Janice Green, who is the president of the Snohomish chapter, NAACP, to say just a couple of words about the branch, the the project, and the partnership.
Hi. Well, we're the Snohomish County branch of the NAACP, and we cover all of Snohomish County. And it was a real pleasure this year to have so many submissions, and Everett School District showed very well. I think it's really important that we continue this work because we give the young people an opportunity to really think about what their dream is for their community, for themselves, for their family, for their schools. And they did an excellent job. I mean, some of the essays that were read were really touching, heartwarming. You see that there's a lot of thought behind all of them, and also with the artwork. So I think that, I'm not gonna say too much more, I just think they did a great job, and I guess when you say sparkle, that's the extension of your sparkle, because these young people did an excellent job, and I'm really proud to be here representing Snohomish County NAACP, and really proud of the work that they do, and I look forward to seeing more of them in this community.
Thank you, Dr. Green. We appreciate your efforts in helping our kids sparkle as well. So tonight we're here to recognize the Prodigies of Peace Award. Last year, Dr. Stewart reminded us of the definition of prodigy, and I think it really helps give some context for the award. The dictionary defines it as a person, especially a child or young person, having extraordinary talent or something marvelous or a wonder. And so tonight you have students who have contributed work that is marvelous and wonderful, and they have extraordinary talents to share with us. So they have displayed this talent by communicating about peace, either through art or writing. We're honored that the NAACP recognized 29 prodigies of peace from the Everett Public Schools, and we are very, very proud of the principals and teachers supporting their efforts. So what I'll be doing is I'm going to call up the students by school. I'll ask that the principal and teachers come up, and we'll introduce them, and the students can hold their artwork, and we'll say their names and get their certificates. So the first school, I believe Dr. Jones from Cedarwood is here, so could the Cedarwood students and staff please come up? So Dr. Jones is the Cedarwood principal. The teachers, Miss Erickson, Miss Stingley, and Miss Wakely. Oh, look at you, thank you. Were the teachers that supported this. And let's see, the certificates are
Right up here.
okay. So the first, do you want to introduce the students there?
Well, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Yes, and good afternoon to all of you. I'm very pleased to represent Cedarwood and the community that supported these 4 entrants from Cedarwood. We had 4 individuals who received an award from the NAACP. The first one was Daman Parengao. And Damon's here with mother and father, I believe. Is that right? Oh, just with her dad, okay. And she entered into the 3rd and 5th grade art competition, and she received an honorable mention for that. So congratulations to her. She did very nice. And then Enrica Tan also entered that art competition for 3rd through 5th grade, and Enrica received the 2nd place award. Congratulations to you. Yeah, it's great to have you here. Enrica's here this evening with her dad, Mr. Setawan, and also her mom, Ms. Lasama. And then also in our 5th grade essay contest, we had 2 recipients. One of those was Joylyn Fan, and Joylyn is in Miss Stingley's class. She competed and received the 3rd place recognition for the 5th grade essay writing. And she's here this evening with her dad, Mr. Fan, and also Mrs. Tran. So congratulations.
And
if do this picture, yeah.
If you guys want to come stand right over here, in a minute we're going to go out and,
Can I read one more?
oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. We'll follow your directions, I promise, that's right. But Varnica Siri also received 1st place for the 5th grade essay award. And with that recognition also this Saturday at the NAACP big dinner function, she'll be reading her essay to all those assembled. And so that's a great event for her. 1st place for the 5th grade essay award. And she's here also with her dad.
Oh,
So congratulations. And her mother. Oops. So thank you.
And if you guys can stand off to the sides, and we will go out for a picture in just a minute. And next I will have the students from Mill Creek. I know Miss Principal Fugelvand is out sick today, but I believe Mrs. Cummerly is here. And real quick, the certificates for Mill Creek Elementary School.
are here.
Process.
They're in process.
We were alphabetical.
Do you just want to say their names?
We're organized alphabetically. You're organized a little differently, Sally.
What's it?
I said, we're organized alphabetically. You're organized a little differently.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
That's okay.
Hello, my name is Carol Cummerly. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Mill Creek Elementary. And I would like to present Kate Morgan for winning honorable mention for grades 3 through 5 in this competition. And Kate is in Mrs. Johnson's 3rd grade class at Mill Creek. And Chloe Phillips is one of my third graders who won first prize in the grade 3 writing essay contest. So congratulations, girls. And they are both here with their parents.
And next we have Garfield Elementary. So Miss Bean, Miss Canlin, and Miss Weber. Miss Bean and Miss Weber, and the students of Garfield, come on up. Thank you. Can I just quickly say their names? Miss Weber. Miss Weber's gonna.
I'm going to do this.
Just their names and then what they got.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Weber, the librarian, and we have our second, our art winner from first grade, actually, came in second place is Darian Norman. He was our first, no, he was a kindergartner. And then honorable mention, she's not here, is Scarlett Hernandez for art. And then our second place winner, Jaden Trevino, is here. We're so proud of her.
And next we have Monroe Elementary, Miss Paddock and Dr. Saznet. We have 3 folks from Monroe Elementary. Do you want to bring your pictures up front and hold them so we can see them?
Yes.
Come right up.
Yes. This was a really exciting time for us. We did this last year as well, and last year we had 27 entries from our school, and this year we had 61.
Wow.
And we are very proud of these students. Our first, let's see, for 3rd through 5th grade, third place winner was not able to be here. Her name's Sienna, and then we also had, there was a category, kindergarten through 2nd grade, that they judged this year. So Corbin won first place in that. Can you show them your artwork? Yep, that was first place. And then Parker won 3rd place for this, and she has her artwork too. Can you hold it up so they can see that, please? And then we had Natalia won an honorable mention for her artwork as well. Kindergarten through 2nd grade.
Thank you very much. And Penny Creek is next with teacher Mrs. Sparks and Principal Heater. While I find this, you wanna?
Hello, I'm Maggie Heater, principal at Penny Creek Elementary, and I'm so excited to introduce you today to Iris Aron, who participated in the essay contest. And she wrote a beautiful piece all about her hopes and dreams. Congratulations.
And next we have Whittier Elementary with Miss Reyes and Miss Hill. Miss Hill? And Principal Wentworth.
So I'm Tony Wentworth, principal at Whittier, and I want to introduce Alice Brackett. She was honorable mention for the art contest. And I want to say she is an outstanding student leader, and outstanding student athlete as well. She's actually, I'm glad she could make it. She's off to soccer practice right after this. And our 2 other winners could not make it tonight, unfortunately.
Thank you. And Heatherwood has a large group of students. Would the Heatherwood students come up with Principal Phillips and Miss Kaufman? The names and what they've won.
We do have a large group of students. We had 7 students honored this year. do you want me to name them all?
I can name them and you can name
Well,
them
the
too.
ones, I was going to read the ones that were here.
So we got
Okay. So our first place winner is Rachel Samuel. Rachel?
Go ahead and read the next one.
Okay. Second place is not here, but it's Giovanna Grovera. And then we had a third place winner, Jolina Liu. Also here tonight, we have 4 honorable mentions. We have Celine Jones, Alexa Shapiro, and Taylor Tobias.
And Forest View Elementary School with Principal Larima, Forest View. They are not here, but Breon Lewis, one from Forest View. What about North? Principal O'Brien, come on up. And Miss Baker, the teacher. Fantastic, thank you very much.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here tonight. We brought the team. We have Malachi Buckles' family with us too, and we are so excited that he received the second place award for his essay, Justice and Equality.
And just 2 more. We have Evergreen Middle School, I don't believe was going to be here tonight. Jackson High School, we have 2 students from Jackson High School. Come on up.
All right. Dave Peters, principal at Jackson High School, and it's my honor to introduce you 2 amazing students. Nicole Roy, who won the high school art category for her beautiful portrait of Martin Luther King Jr. And this is much smaller than the original, and it's a copy, but I'm going to have her hold that for us. Nicole was inspired by Dr. King's belief in the content of character rather than the color of one's skin. And I also am pleased to introduce to you Rashida Bonapali. She won the high school category for the essay, and Rashida was inspired to write her essay because of Dr. King's passion for overcoming challenging social situations like segregation through love rather than hate and fear. And so, thank you very much.
I want to thank all the teachers and principals and students for their hard work for this, but we have not thanked the families. So I would ask that all the family members, would you stand up and let us give you a round of applause? We so much appreciate your support of these fantastic students who are a wonder and a marvel. I believe we're going to go out into the foyer for the picture. So if you guys would go out, the board will join you. And thank you very, very much.
The biggest recognition we've had.
It's too big to happen in here. It's too many people. I'd like it to be like that. Larry, we got extra flowers, don't we? You bet. She's not going down. Anyone else? Come on, Larry. I might be going with Denise. Denise.
Yes. I found it. I found it.
We move on? We are at public comment. Okay, we're going to move forward here. We are at section 6.0, which is public comment. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of involving members of the public in the meetings. Dr. Cohn, are there any requests for comments?
There is one.
Okay, on behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome you to this meeting. School board meetings are designed to conduct district business in public. We welcome ideas and opinions presented in that same spirit. I would like to share how this portion of the meeting is conducted. Who do we have this evening? Since she's been to a couple meetings, do I?
Up to you.
Do one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, go ahead and introduce our speaker, please.
Sure. Tonight, the one request we have is from Lisa Mills. She's an employee of the district, a resident of the district, a parent, and she works at Jackson High School, and she wishes to address the board about weapons in schools. The green light will signify the start of your 3 minutes, the yellow 30-second warning, and the red is the expiration of the 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Lisa Mills. I appreciate this opportunity to come talk with you tonight. My son is a sophomore at Jackson High School. As a parent, I'm looking to have my voice heard locally on this issue. Please do not consider arming teachers and staff members. That is not a real solution and would only create more dangers. Do not look to the White House or Washington, D.C. for answers. We can find our own solutions. Studies and common sense tells us that guns in schools are far more likely to result in tragedy than to prevent it. Please continue to fund and support the School Resource Officer Program with our local law enforcement. I know not all districts have programs like this, and I am grateful to this district and our local law enforcement officers. Continue to research ways to improve each school building to better provide safety and security for our students. Let our teachers focus on teaching. Teachers already have so much responsibility and the expectations are so high. Teaching students, preparing them for the future, managing hundreds of different personalities, always on the watch for signs of life struggles, classroom disruptions, distractions, acting as counselors in their support system. They do not need the added pressure and responsibility of this. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing your opinions.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. No other comments?
No other requests.
Okay. With that, we will move to the consent agenda, which is a full one this evening since we did not have a second meeting, regular meeting in February. Dr. Cohn, would you please introduce tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, the board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items. These include, for example, meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, and recurring contracts. Sometimes the consent agenda will include items that occur less frequently but are still of a routine business nature. The less frequently occurring consent agenda items are usually reviewed by the board in its Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting when those items are scheduled to appear on the consent agenda. This gives the directors time to ask staff questions about those items or to consider a discussion about the policy implications of those items. If a consent agenda item is removed by the concurrence of 2 directors, that item is placed in new business and we automatically renumber the remaining items for the board vote. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By their nature, consent agendas are not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no questions or comments regarding any items. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented as published, and we ask your approval thereof.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? Thank you. It's been moved by Director Andrews and seconded by Director Lassane. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in new business section of the agenda? Hearing no requests, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye. 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 Those opposed, no. The motion carries. We are at Section 8.0, which is board comments. This is a time when student representatives and directors have an opportunity to share their share information and comments about their activities as they relate to their school board work. Terrific. Would you like to begin this evening?
So this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night is the premiere of Jackson's spring play, which is Great Expectations this year. And so all the students in drama and theater have been really hard at work on this for the past several months now, and everyone is really excited. And so I'd like to extend an invitation to all of you to come and see the show Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And I believe it's also going to be performing next week on the same days.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
You know what time?
I don't recall. I think it is 7 p.m., but it should be on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a sign hanging in the Mill Creek Starbucks by Central Market. So.
You happen to get by for a coffee?
Yeah.
Any other news? Okay. Director Lassane.
Yes, I would like to comment. I had the great opportunity to attend Emerson's Saucer, which was held 2 weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. It was great to be back at Emerson. I like going out to the schools, and that was a very pleasant event. I also had the opportunity to attend Washington Family Engagement Parent Leadership class on the following Saturday, and I had the opportunity of I guess you would say, giving some information to parents who are engaged in civic understanding and lessons on civic opportunities and what they need to do in order to become good citizens in our state and our community, and how to engage with city councils, board members, and school districts, their legislature. And I just happened to have an opportunity to give them a perspective of what it's like on the school board. And I must say, there was lots of questions as to why we do it, how long we spend doing the work that we do. And it was interesting. It was an eye-opener. Those parents who would like to get more involved with the school board and even going so far as to a stepping stone for other opportunities. And I enjoyed that. That was very good. The other opportunity that I had to do had to invite myself with is reading the Friday reports. And I must say, there was one thing that I'm very happy with that I found in the Friday report. And that was the completion of an MOU between the Everett Public Schools. Yeah, I see hands up over there. And with MOU for Everett Public Schools and the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Training Program, that our students, after they've done 2,000 hours of OJT with a company and coursework, completion of a coursework, will earn a production technician's journey level card, which allows them to have one step up, I guess you would say, in a productive business within our community in the aerospace or any advanced manufacturing company. And I think our students will really reap great benefits by having that opportunity early on. There are so many kids who may not want to go to college. There's some who will want to go to college, and that might be of great benefit for them. But those who do not wish to go on to college, it allows them a stepping stone early for a good wage-paying, family wage-paying job for themselves and their families in the future. So I'm very happy with that. And I'm looking forward to more information in the future on how that progresses. So thank you for the hard work.
I had the pleasure of attending a saucer at Gateway last week. Really amazing to see the collaboration occurring among the teacher teams there. Lots of really good work going on. And then also attended the Tech Night, or Learning in a Digital Age, as it was called, with Jeff Utek also last week, which was a really great presentation. It was wonderful to see so many parents and community members there. And I think he just did an amazing job of helping parents understand that the world has changed, and just allowing a little more freedom possibly for their students and children to engage with technology. I think one of the questions at the end of the night was how much screen time is enough, and his analysis was, are they consuming or creating, or addiction versus engaged, which I just thought was a great way to kind of evaluate it. Also really interesting was hearing that from the teachers at Everett High School and Sequoia about how the technology, the one-on-one, has changed the classroom. And I learned so many things. First of all, they just said it was such a smooth transition and rollout. So, a shout out to the IT department that allowed that. That's just so much planning. You often hear of what went wrong, and when things go smoothly, you don't hear a lot. So I know they did a fantastic job there. But the other things I heard that I was unaware of was a PE teacher talked about how they use it in instructing yoga, and a special ed teacher was talking about how it's just been groundbreaking for so many of their students. So that was really interesting to hear. And then they talked a little bit about how they have had to learn some disciplinary techniques to keep students engaged and on topic, and that was interesting too. But
that was really interesting.
Yeah, I just
that's one of my kids.
Yeah,
Engaged in the class and not engaged on the computer.
Yeah, it just it sounds like it's been an amazing transformation. In fact, one of the teachers said after the rollout, it felt like a college campus. So I'm just really thrilled. It was thrilling to hear all those. So that was a great presentation. That's all I have.
I too had the opportunity to attend that, and it was fun because I got to bring my son along, and we had some great conversations at the table. And I think actually when we walked away from the evening, he felt better about his stance about how much screen time he gets than I did, maybe, which was kind of interesting. But certainly Jeff is so engaging, and he does really help you look at it from all sides, the topic of screen time and how to best use it. I also had an opportunity to attend my first ever Penny Creek Elementary School saucer, which was really eye-opening and really fun. Great group of teachers there. You just felt it the moment you walked in the room. And then I got to go back to two of my schools, Jackson Elementary and Evergreen. And Evergreen just always puts on a phenomenal saucer. So it was great it's fun to track these year over year as you start to get to go back and see where they're focusing and making changes. And that's really it. So.
Okay, great. Well, I attended the saucers at Evergreen, which was my first one, and then Gateway and Penny Creek, which is always nice to go home. And the thing I really walked away from these three schools, very different poverty levels, very different. They're all three very big schools. Evergreen at 1,000 kids, Penny Creek at almost 800. Over 700, excuse me, Penny Creek at Gateway at almost 800. But the fact is, this staff knows each of those students, and how Evergreen is looking at how can they make sure that they know something about each student. And Gateway did that a few years ago. But just really looking at everything through an equity lens. Are we teaching the kids the way they need to be taught? I heard that at every school. How are they working with the standards, especially the new NGSS standards and the squirrel houses at Evergreen, bat houses at Evergreen was really cool. But then also the social emotional part of it and how they're working with that. And we spoke earlier, we had a moment of silence for that young man, for the people who were murdered in Parkland, Florida. But did the schools, did the community have opportunities with that young man? And that is yet to be answered. But for our students, how are we meeting each of their needs? How are we making sure they are whole people? How do we make sure that our kids are safe? And are we doing enough as we're creating the budget for next year with staff? I mean, I think those are questions we need to look at because they're already doing so much, and what else do we need to do? Then last week, I went to the WASDA Regional 1 meeting at Mount Vernon High School. They had a bond that passed a few years ago, and it was the first phase of their new, what they literally called the new main building, which I thought that was it helped with directions. Because it's on the outside of the building. Really informative meeting, but talking about the fact that this current legislative session is supposed to end this Friday. I don't know, Jeff, if you've heard anything different, but it's still this Friday, as far as they say. The House Bill 60 was Senate Bill 6362, but now it's House Bill 6362. They're calling it the McCleary Fix Bill. It still hasn't made its way through the whole House, unless you know something different. But they asked us to definitely call, so I called each of our the House members last week, because in this bill, they want to limit no early releases, no late starts, limiting that collaboration time. And so my messages to each of our legislators was, it is our over 95% graduation rates with our 3 comprehensive high schools is due in part to that collaboration time and the fact that our staff knows each student. So I gave this message either to the legislative aide or a voicemail about how we have to have that collaboration time in our day, that our calendar is Lift Fridays every Friday. We make sure our seat time is there for the state requirement, and that the calendar needs to be in local control for how we manage that. So we'll see if anything happens to the House, but that was my legislative actions for the week. But a really great meeting just to talk to other school boards about who thankfully Marysville and Snohomish passing their levies and how thankful they were for that, and then just the bond failures that happened around the county. Just talking about what we're all going to do. So it was just it's a great meeting to talk to other board members and what they're dealing with. So that's enough. Thank you.
And Representative Pollack? No? Okay. That brings us to section point 9, the superintendent's report.
Alrighty, we have a few things for you this evening. I have a wonderful picture for you on the front of the superintendent's report. The 22nd of February was the 100th day of school. And the day is always a fun-filled day observed in a variety of unique ways in classrooms across the district. This particular photo shows one such event at Hawthorne Elementary, where students celebrated being 100 days smarter with their 100 days hats. So we thought you would appreciate that. Our Navy JROTC Seagull Company recently traveled to Port Angeles, I'm familiar with that area, to compete in a 7-school tournament. Our Seagull cadets placed in every one of 9 events, including our Color Guard Team 1, defending their first place ranking with another win, and our unarmed drill team, which also took first place. It was reported that our cadets were absolutely the best sports persons at the tournament, and they enthusiastically supported other teams. I'm proud to announce that for the first time in this unit's history, every team of the Seagull Company qualified to perform at the regional championships held at Marysville on March 17th. Way to go, Seagulls. If any of you would like to go, let me know. We'll get you there. It's a great deal of fun. Congratulations to our Jackson High School Jazz Choir for taking this pointer is doing all kinds of weird things, isn't it? For taking top honors at the University of Idaho's 2018 Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival last month. After a full day of competition, the Jackson High Jazz Choir, a large ensemble directed by Craig Schell, was named the 4A High School Multi-Mic Ensemble for the winner, I should say. So we're very, very proud of them. Congratulations to Jackson High School's Jack in the Bot robotics team. They earned a first place in the 2018 FIRST robotics competition held this past weekend in the Pacific Northwest FIRST Power Up District event in Mount Vernon. In addition to placing first, they earned an Excellence in Engineering Award. Congratulations also go to Cascade High School's Bear Bots. gotta say that carefully, Bear Bots, who came in second place at the competition. The Jackson High Knowledge Bowl team also qualified to compete at the state after placing third in the recent regional competition. If you recognize the face in that particular picture, it's because he's at the end of the table here. Enduro Learning's Parent Tech Talk with Jeff Utek was, I believe, a great success. I want to thank all the digital ambassadors from Everett High School who helped parents and students with hands-on learning. About 200 people joined in this activity, learning how to balance online and offline learning. It's, of course, important, and it's really how learning is going to look in the coming years. It's the third parent training focused on technology's impact on today's society and its implications for the future. Over the next 3 years, the district is deploying resources provided by the 2016 capital levy that voters approved to provide digital devices and training to teachers and students. My recollection is it's 4 years to roll everything out, and then the 6-year levy then starts to replenish equipment as it dies, which we can all be sure it will. Teams of teachers are evaluating instructional materials for Spanish language and psych classes. They're looking at these materials for how well they support teaching and learning, state standards, 21st century skills, course objectives, and content. On March 20, students, family, staff, and community members are invited to explore these materials and leave written comments. The adoption teams will review all feedback as part of the instructional materials review process. Governor Inslee invited students to present to the Governor's STEM Education Innovation Alliance at the quarterly meeting last month. The meeting focused on science, climate, and environment programs from across the state. Our Evergreen Middle School 8th grade student Mackenzie Johnson and 9th grade student Ali Al-Ghanim of Cascade High School presented Evergreen's Energy Matters program. Evergreen was the only middle school presentation at the event. Energy Matters is a project-based learning experience that allows students to connect concepts learned in the classroom to real-life scenarios. For example, by students learning to read an electricity bill, they launched a school-wide campaign to reduce energy consumption at Evergreen. So Evergreen's teachers and district STEM staff helped develop Energy Matters, and its success inspired the staff to expand the program district-wide in partnership with Washington Green Schools and the Fluke Corporation. I think this past week Senator Murray held a roundtable discussion in Everett with a number of community members, including our district staff. We helped organize and plan it here at the district. It eventually was held at Cocoon House. The senator gained insight into some often unspoken impacts about combating opioid use within our families, schools, and community. Hawthorne Elementary School principal Cecilia O'Connor shared some of the impacts that opioid addiction has on students, especially if a parent is using drugs. We very much appreciate Senator Murray's investment in listening to our community, the work that she does for us on a federal level, and the attention she pays to our Everett Public Schools. February was a busy month of family events at Hawthorne Elementary. The Children's Museum put together a family math night. The Natural Leaders hosted a STEM night with students and their families. They explored science, technology, engineering, and math. Volunteer engineers from the Boeing Company also participated, sharing their knowledge with families. Both of these events were very successful. This is an example of the kind of community partnerships on which we work in the district and the kind of difference that they make in our schools. Our Elementary Boundary Committee recently hosted 2 open houses to share information about that elementary boundary process. Suggestions for the proposed boundary revisions will help create a service area for the new elementary school scheduled to open fall 2019. The committee will consider all comments as it gathers this information to develop a final boundary recommendation for the superintendent, which eventually will come to the school board. On a side note, Mr. Gunn informs me this evening that we received 2 bids for the elementary school, and we're delighted about that for a number of reasons, which he'll report to you at a later date. We have 3 donations on tonight's agenda. We actually had them in the consent agenda. You accepted them. The Mill Creek PTA donated $7,600 to provide school field trips that enhance learning experiences. Gateway Middle School's Band Boosters donated $23,254.20 to the school's band program. Mariners Care and the Seattle Mariners donated $5,000 to purchase fast pitch equipment for Everett High School girls' fast pitch team. We thank all of them for their contributions to the program here in Everett Public Schools. This is a quick list of the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools that I was able to visit during this past month. A couple of times at Emerson, one of them for a state of school review, 3 times at Jefferson, actually, one of which was a state of school review visit, and the other was an opportunity to walk through the Lighthouse Exploration Day. That is the superintendent's report. Did we give me extra time this evening? It didn't feel like I got through it that fast, but really, yeah, done.
You're just getting better at it.
I'm getting better at it.
Well, thank you.
Finally, I'm getting better at it.
I love hearing about things like the celebration of 100 days of school. You forget about that stuff as your kids move on through the system and they get to high school. What a big deal 100 days of school is each year. Okay, so we are on to our section 10.0, strategic progress monitoring. And tonight we have an update on our 21st century skills. And I believe Dr. Scott is going to kick it off.
I am.
Joined by
Joanne Budewig, my sidekick here. And we both look forward to spending some time with you discussing 21st century skills development and hope to achieve the following objectives here: to review those theories of action, the why behind 21st century skills, the history of development a bit, highlighting strategic progress to date, integrating and monitoring 21st century in the classroom, and then discussing next steps of development across our system. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. So many of you were here at the advent of the definition of the 21st century skills, that community engagement event we had back in 2010, where 200 community members got together and imagined and envisioned words like well-rounded, flexible thinkers, collaborators, advocates for self, school, and community. Those were the kinds of words and adjectives that the community envisioned for their graduates after they left our school system. And so this really set the foundation for what was to become our 21st century skills. In the same way, a similar history played out in the development of our strategic goals, as you can see here in our KPOs, specifically that each student will graduate college, career, and life ready with 21st century skills, that they would learn in rigorous and relevant and engaging classrooms. That was one of our commitments. And that they would have models in their teachers and other staff who applied those skills in context in their professional repertoire. So I'm going to briefly go through these theories of action. These are sort of if-then statements, but they really serve as the why behind 21st century skills. So if our students graduate with these skills, they're more likely to become college, career, life ready. These are sort of intuitive. If we model them as professionals, students are more likely to practice them after seeing them. If we integrate skills into instructional maps, teachers are more likely to use intentionally the building of skills among students in their lessons seamlessly. If we embed them in our pre-K and K connections in our early learning work, students are more likely to experience greater academic success in the primary grades. And finally, if we leverage authentic uses of technology in the one-to-one environment, students will have more and different opportunities to practice these skills. Intuitive ideas, yes, but these serve as the backbone of why we are talking about 21st century skills this evening.
As we developed the definitions for 21st century skills, we made certain that we worked alongside many different groups. We worked within our own Community Resource Center with our directors and facilitators. We asked them actually to look at the standards that were already written in our Common Core and to find those corollaries between the 21st century skills and where they were already evident in our Common Core standards so that we could highlight the collaboration, the citizenship, the work that was already engaged in the standards themselves, and to look at those areas where we might need to be more explicit in our instruction, like in creativity, in those growth mindset. We researched in our definitions what was it that our students needed as they left us, the resilience, the grit, those words kept surfacing as we looked at the landscape of what was valued in our current environment. As we started developing our definitions, we found a great landscape movement from the work of the progressions for the WA kids into our 21st century skills as an evolution. So we are able to incorporate that early work with early learning and graduate that through the 312 in our definitions and rubrics. We pulled together a teacher group for shared leadership. It was K-12 to make certain that they saw the alignment to the classroom and enriched it with the things that they felt were important to their students. And they were part of the development of the language of our 21st century skills rubrics. We made certain that in our instructional mapping that we were calling out times, places, and spaces where it was a great opportunity to be explicitly instructing 21st century skills such as collaboration or in our critical thinking, that we'd made those ties very clear in when we were teaching our content, that those were integrated into that work. We have looked to adopt materials that include those opportunities for students to develop and engage in 21st century activities that would highlight those skills, putting them to use, but also coaching them to develop and grow in those areas. And then we've this year integrated into our progress reporting and our 612 reporting in our comment section, those 21st century skills, the language of our rubrics. So our students are getting that kind of feedback as they move through their coursework. As we look at the definitions that formed, we evolved into our posters. This is our starting place so that it's a constant reference point as we work in our classes to make certain that we're paying attention to those moments when the opportunity arises for instruction and for recognizing when our students are demonstrating those skills, again, to create that common and shared vocabulary.
I think you've got
this.
Yeah, one more.
Sorry.
I can talk to this too. But
I should use your little guide here. Thank you. So when we talk about the evolution and the work we did K-12, this is an example of our collaboration rubric. And I like the connection Dr. Scott made to what our teachers are doing and the connection to the idea that it's through collaboration that we really enrich and know our students in that design. And these are the three criteria: the working interdependently, the learning and contributing to the learning of others, and that they're moving ahead with a purpose in that collaboration. And so this is a continuum. It's framed in a positive manner. Each level is what they're able to do in collaboration, and then it's to help them grow and coach them into richer, deeper levels throughout. All of our rubrics are built the same way, and they help us design our instruction as well to inform what we need to be asking our students to show and to demonstrate as they grow. And these are a continuum that go from grades 3 through grades 12 in this similar format, and that builds off the progressions that are already evident in our WAKIDs for our K2 students. And so we show an alignment between the K2 language and that 312 language as well on our websites as we look at a K-12 progression of growing our students through this process.
So Joanne mentioned a little bit about our visual representations, but I think it's important really to talk about the importance of communicating broadly across the system about 21st century skills. So we produced a poster for each classroom in the district, not as a static visual, but more as a dynamic teaching tool. And that was a really important distinction to make. We want our teachers to familiarize students and all stakeholders that enter their classroom with, yes, the definitions, and to provide them with frequent reference throughout the lessons, just like they would with clear learning targets. If you've been in classrooms, which you have recently, you'll notice that a value and an emphasis placed on making learning targets clear. And we want to do the same thing here with 21st century skills, to demystify them, to make sure that they're part and parcel of each lesson, because they're there. If we call them out explicitly, they'll be reinforced. In the same way, the poster is designed as a teaching tool. We're working with principals to support their strategies in incorporating 21st century skills into their local professional development. We want to support their reinforcement that these skills are critical to the learning process and not extraneous or a tack on, but central. And the more that we're intentional, the more that we're explicit in our planning and in our integration in lessons, the more we can observe authentically these skills in context practiced by the students, and then ultimately report out. And Joanne's going to talk a little bit about the reporting out functions, but report out as formative feedback to our stakeholders, most importantly students, their parents, and colleagues within the school. This is an example of the centrality of really ensuring that we're supporting teachers' integration of 21st century skills in the instructional map. So this is an example of a 5th grade English language arts. It's a snippet here. We have been working diligently on including 21st century skills in those maps. Here's an example in an ELA unit overview where the skill of citizenship is called out, and it's connected to that big idea. If you see the big question at the top, why is water so important? You've heard in Saucers that our Reach for Reading curriculum really hones in meaningful ways and authentic ways in connecting kids with those big questions. And we think that it's a great marriage, really, with 21st century skills. So we want teachers to capitalize on that. So the famous bat example here. Several of you heard Andrea Cartwright's presentation on the NGSS a few weeks ago about Define STEM as one example. This Define STEM, if you recall, is the online problem-based learning resource that we're using in middle school. You certainly heard about this highlighted at Evergreen Middle School, and you read about it in a recent Friday report. But we're using it here as an example. It's just one example, but I think a powerful one of performance tasks where students are intentionally asked to apply most, if not all, of the 21st century skills into designing, creating, testing, and revising solutions to real-world problems. And for this particular Define STEM task, now this is a little dark here on the background, but students were asked to role play being a wildlife biologist, supporting a bat population to ultimately sustain a food web in a natural environment. And there's a lot more that went on this project, but it's a good example of a natural place to elicit those skills in students and to observe, report, and record and report out on those skills. And in the same way, here's an excerpt from the rubric from this project where students were able to locate their own performance relative to several 21st century skills, in this case, critical thinking, collaboration, and citizenship, and then be assessed by their teacher on their performance relative to the rubric. So in this sense, the skills are taught explicitly and expectations are widely understood, so students can, along with their teachers, set meaningful growth goals related to those skills.
It's exciting to see the definitions come alive in the student work. We worked with principals, and also we were out in the community with PTSA, as well as some of our other groups. So it's a living, breathing thing when you see it incorporated into their lessons. This fall, we added to the progress reporting. On our elementary level, we replaced what was once called the behaviors that promote learning, which was done on a frequency rating. We've replaced and moved into the 21st century skills on that same frequency rating. How often are we seeing these behaviors displayed? And so the criteria, the bullets underneath, come from the rubrics. And the criteria, so they give an overall rating for the skill area, but the descriptors follow. So if you notice on the K2, that actually is a language that comes from the WaKids progressions, the Washington State progressions for the K2 learners. And then the 3.5 is where we continue that on then from the rubrics that we've built. And so this language is being introduced to our students, it's being introduced to our parents. It's our starting place to embed it richer and deeper into all of our curriculum. For our secondary students, what we've done is at all middle and high schools, we've added to the comment options at the school level an 800 series. And in that 800 series is the language of the rubric. So it's feedback we can give to our students. In each area, there's a general improvement statement. Otherwise, they can give positive reinforcement from the different areas of the rubrics themselves. My favorite comment in developing this particular was a middle school teacher who said, I have a reason to give comments now, because she felt really empowered by this rather than most enjoyable to have in class. She felt like this would give her some real opportunity to give some very specific pointed feedback for her students. As a result, we increased the number of comments that teachers were allowed to give, so if they wanted to give in more than one area, they would have that opportunity. We also did take our 21st century skill rubrics to our technology advisory council, and we added the word, looked at our integrated technology plan and said, how do these fit if you add the word digital citizenship, digital collaboration? And they really felt that it honored our 4 goals in this area, that if we're fully leveraging technology, we would need to utilize the collaboration rubric in a digital environment. And they felt that the language of the rubric was written in a way that it did not limit itself to the environment. Our communications rubric actually specifically talks about in a face-to-face and digital platform. So we made sure that we were really explicit about that communication crossing over from a face-to-face world into that digital world. So we made sure that we had a good correlation between these two plans, that they matched and supported each other.
So in closing, for next steps, what we'd like to communicate is that we're going to continue to adopt instructional materials and leverage technology to support students' demonstration of these skills. We're going to continue to support teachers and principals in their integration at the local level of meaningful professional development around 21st century skills. And again, to reiterate the importance of explicitly teaching these skills in the context of lessons, communicate expectations, provide formative and individual team feedback, and then incorporate that into meaningful formative reporting out structures that Joanne just mentioned. And the rubrics as working documents as well, so collaboratively refine rubrics and revisit them to sharpen them over time. So now we'd like to invite your questions.
Thank you very much. Directors, do you have any questions for either Dr. Scott or Ms. Budewick?
I just have 2 comments for the most part. As a parent, when we got the report card, I did see the comments at the bottom, but I did not know that they were 21st century skills. And so I don't know what kind of communication went out to those K-12 parents about those new comments that might help us. And if I missed something, I apologize. And then my second comment is at Gateway, we did see this, and I don't remember if Dr. Stewart, if it was you or Dr. Lancaster was sitting at the table with me with all the Post-it notes about some sort of support material that they had, and that they have, it's for their writing rigor, but they have the Wi-Fi bars, and the better they write, they do this, and the kids were all talking about, don't take this away from us because it gives us grit, and they had all different forms of the word grit that they'd modified. But I saw it alive, is what I'm trying to say, there, that the kids really, it is alive, these 21st century skills. So just thank you for all the staff for what they're doing for that.
I just have a question on your slide 16. When you talk about progress reporting for the secondary schools and you talk about the different codes, how do you know when teachers are using this with fidelity and that they are providing opportunities to improve? If somebody received an 807, needs to improve collaborative skills, and how would you know that, how that fits into their grades? You know, how do you know that, that the teachers are integrating it with their, you know,
Well, these are in the comment section, and we're building those reports to be able to monitor when they're used and how they're used. But I think that feeds into the whole loop with the teaching and learning cycle with their administrator and their building work and in the observations. The comment allows the parent to know an area of concern for growth. And so there's in that commenting, then in that relationship, it would come up as well. But we can see the comments that are being used and be able to follow up on that within the building, within the teaching,
building
learning,
and the-
coaching structure. Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Thank you.
Director Andrews?
I have a question as to like page 9 where you have the definitions example of collaboration. Are the other definitions available on the website?
They are.
Or they are?
They're in several places. They're under curriculum assessment and special programs, I know for sure. And then they're also posted.
Grades and more.
I'm sorry?
Grades and more.
Grades and more, that's right. Grades and more.
Okay. What has the parent response been to having these on the progress reports?
I can speak from the perspectives of hearing from several, and then actually we held a brief exercise at principals' meetings looking at a sample report and putting on our hats as parents, or looking at the progress reports through those lenses. And I'd say that it really was constructive, and we were looking at it through, I think, a critical lens. In some communicated better than others, and some left us wanting to know a lot more. Some left us, and so I'm drawing this data from the responses from principal colleagues in this particular instance. Some led us to discuss ways that we could support teachers in collection devices, right? So the idea of the bad example, the tools that Craig Murray at Evergreen is using to watch in context, to collect data as he watches his teams work on the Bat House solutions, is something that we over time need to take to scale. And so I would say that we're in emerging areas in that sense to watch, practically speaking, how these tools are used in context and support teachers. Because ultimately we want those conferences or the parent opening up the envelope at home to know that this is valid, reliable, and meaningful. So I can sit down with my student at the kitchen table and say, what do you think we might do to move this from this area to this area? Let's go take a look at the rubric. So they need to be instructive, and the tools surrounding the support of those conversations is really important. It's a next step of development.
The rubrics are really impressive. When I was looking at this presentation, I was remembering it's been a long road to get here.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Remember the conferences, 21st century, right?
My hair was a different color when we started. No, I do. I remember a conference, I think it was maybe San Diego, and we were first exposed to 21st century skills, and Ed Peterson was energized and enthused when we came back. And, you know, it was such a different concept, you know. I mean, it makes so much sense, but it's so hard to put it on paper.
Yeah.
And the graphics and the posters, I am so impressed.
I agree.
I
Those
just
posters. Yeah,
and
the poster is great.
definitions, I just think you guys have done an amazing job. I was just like, we went from here to here, and I know we've got a long ways to go, but boy, really on the path. I just think this is so meaningful. So I'm hoping that, you know, getting the information out to all the parents and getting a real community understanding of what we're doing. I know it will happen, but great work, because this is really difficult stuff, I guess, in the most basic language. It's So this rubric and everything, and that's why I was asking where else they are on the website, is I'm really anxious to look at the rest of them.
Yeah.
I love also the growth mindset aspect of the 21st century skills. I think that's really probably one of the most important ones, and I like the way that it's described. So thank you very much. Great work.
And I would just add to that, what I appreciate is how you're introducing this language, this universal language, and it's starting with the teachers, because the modeling is so important, and to introduce parents to some of this. A lot of us parents haven't heard or seen what 21st century skills, we might already be doing some of it, but to kind of create this common language with the students and in the education area is really impressive. And the poster is really great. I think, the goal is, and what I heard Dr. Cohn say in a couple saucers this past month, is being in a saucer and seeing the 8-step process without having to be told that they're doing this part of the 8-step process. And I look forward to the day when that is alive and living in our schools with 21st century skills too. And as Director Andrews said, you guys have done quite a bit of work, and there's still more to go, but great job. Thank you. Director Lassane, did you have one more comment?
I had one more comment. When you, on slide 16, I think it is, when you start talking about the definition and examples for collaboration, 9, collaboration, when you mention that, it looks very much like the teacher evaluation and the administrative evaluation. And what I like mostly about this is the alignment, that we're aligning the work that we're evaluated on ourselves to how students are going to be evaluated, essentially. The alignment is there, and it shows that, I do like the comments or columns that you chose: novice, basic, proficient, and advanced for students. It's so very much aligned to how our administrators and teachers are being evaluated, and that's good. When we start thinking along those lines, that we're not doing anything different from you, we're doing the same thing for us, we're evaluating you in the same sense, so that it's clear and concise, and it gives you a stepping stone on how to improve and to work to get to a better position for yourselves. So that's what I really do like. I like that alignment that I see. So being an advocate for 21st century skills and rubrics, and being a very vocal person about it, I'm so glad that we've come to this point. And so thank you so much for the hard work that you guys have done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we're going to take a 15-minute break, which will bring us back together at about 6:12.
Want me to?
Sure. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started again. We are on section 11.0, information and discussion, and tonight we have Jeff Moore up to talk about the 2018 election results. Take it away.
Thank you, and I think we're familiar with the specific outcomes, but I wanted to provide you with a little bit of background information and details so that we can support a discussion amongst you. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to really converse in depth. So first of all, I think we are extremely thankful for the support of our levy at 55.34%. Unfortunately, our capital bond, slightly higher than that, was short of the supermajority, something that's always a subject at our state level, hoping that somewhere in the near future, and apparently not this session, we will have a simple majority and have the ability to access our community support to build buildings. It's important to look at this statewide summary result for a number of reasons. You can see that 54.2% of the bonds failed, and compared to prior years, that's up, as well as levies. On the other hand, it's really not as many levies failed, but that's not really the whole story. What we're seeing is an erosion or a decline in overall support. So on this next slide, we have comparative data for Snohomish County. You can see very evidently that all across our county, the yes votes were down, and I think it's pretty evident based upon our efforts to communicate to our community and offset some of the negative information that was being, or misleading information. First is our legislators claim that they fully fulfilled McCleary, and we know that that's not factual because the Supreme Court has still held them in contempt. They discussed and enacted a levy swap, which in fact increased state school tax 1 year early, and that was widely publicized, and they really ignored the local offsets. We also know that, a few years ago or a year ago, community transit passed an increase in tax, and now we have the Regional Transit Authority, ST3, the car tab that really wasn't evident to voters when they voted yes for that. And we clearly see, particularly in the Puget Sound region, particularly in the RTA, tax fatigue. In the future, I think we would know that our local levy tax will go down. So in the future, there probably are some offsets to that, but right now there's a general misunderstanding in our community. You can see that for the bond, this is specific to the bond, that the yes votes were fairly consistent. The turnout was fairly consistent, but there was an increase in no vote. And that again seems to support the fact that this tax fatigue drew more no voters out to vote and say we do not want to be taxed more, even though our total package was a flat tax rate. This is a district map you're familiar with, and I show you this as a precursor to a couple slides down the road. Within our school district, there are numerous, and I don't have the exact count of numbers, but you can see there, and if you're to look at the attachment to the agenda item, you can zoom in and see how many voter precincts there are. But in reality, what we saw is that throughout our district, and not in any one particular area, that all but 10 of these voter precincts had lower positive votes. In other words, you can tell throughout our district, and this is the north end, that our voters' perceptions affected them to vote more negatively. So it wasn't localized, it wasn't in any one place. In fact, across the districts, only 10 precincts had more positive votes than in 2016. If you look at the south end of the district, you can see a similar pattern. And what this map is indicating is the more pink or red it is, the more no votes, and the more green it is, the more yes votes. So that's just a brief overview of the elections, and it's just to set the stage for a conversation amongst you as board members. That's it.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
That was quick. wasn't done with my dessert. Directors, at this time, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on election results and share any comments or additional information. Student representatives as well. Any comments you've heard in the community since the election passing? Dr. Lassane?
Surely. I would love to comment. I am very thankful that the levy did pass. I'm glad that our community is supporting the levy. It's very important to us, and that's a good thing. I'm saddened by the fact that the bond did not pass. We have since 2014, we have continually focused in on the fact that our district is growing. We are expanding. We need relief at our schools. We need to continue to support our students so that they're college and career ready. And one thing is for certain, I anticipated, I see from the graphics that you have here, if you go back in the precinct results, that our south end is experiencing a lot of overcrowded. And that has come clear with the people that I haven't been in communication with. They did feel that, that we needed to pass this bond. I'm a little bit concerned about the one pink area in the south end to the east. And I'm not quite sure the results of that, if it was due to the eminent domain course that we took, if that caused that area to be pink over green. But those people that I have been in communication with in the south end were very supportive of the bond, and were hoping that it would pass because they could see the need for an additional high school. Since we've been focusing on this since 2014, even before 2014, I don't think now is the time to forget about this and put it to the side. I don't believe we should go back to the voters in April. That's just not enough time. But I think we need to communicate as much as we possibly can the need for continued focus on a new high school. That is important. That is important to the district. That's important to the students that that are in our district, that are looking to us to provide some relief and support for them. But we can't stop that focus, and nor should we let it linger too long. I think it's very important that we just go out. If the high school was on the ballot in 2014, it failed 2 times, but it's been the focus. And we need to perhaps do something just to focus in on the high school and go out to our community once again and say, this is important. This is what we need. We've said it. We're not letting up on this. We need to do it. And whatever we can do, we need to continue that push and just focus on the high school.
And I'm going to counter that just a little bit, and I apologize.
Mm-hmm. Don't apologize.
Because talking to somebody from the North End today about why should North Everett have to, and most of Everett proper, have to carry the lift and the tax burden for a what they see as a Mill Creek High School. And that was the words that were told to me today. Mm-hmm. And on that bond were things for the whole district, and that's how we've always structured our bonds. And I think that because of the failure of 14, we do have some elementary school modernizations that are needed that are primarily in the North End. And so we need parity north and south and central for whatever we do. And I'm fearful that the next time we go out, it's going to be very big because of what happens. But what I heard about that high school was confusion with our Penny Creek meeting. I think it's really where it really came out. But people were confused because they didn't understand our 14 small high school, $140 million versus this $200+ million. Didn't understand that we were building a bigger high school. is what I heard at the Jackson High School PTA meeting last week. And then also I think we tried to do it, but maybe we need really consumer input to help the district in communicating why the cost of that high school. What is land? What is building? Why is building that cost? What is property? Why is property? What is road? What is sewage? What is water? Why? The why behind $214 million. I think what I heard at Jackson, not clear. I think we have a big challenge ahead of us because we do have this need for the bond. We have a requirement now to move students around. And a decision about when will we go out for another bond, how are we going to get community support around what should be in that bond, how do we engage them for 19 or 20, for what needs to be in that bond so there's parity across the district, meeting our needs, and getting a high school.
Can you put that graphic again of the precinct results, the colorful one, the red and green, and that back up? Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
And again, I am very thankful for the levy passing. The fact that, and I tried to reinforce that every time the person I spoke to today, thanking them for their efforts on passing our levy. Because that's what keeps our lights on, because we're able to pay staff, pay programs. The bond is a devastation.
I'm thankful to our community as well for passing the levy. I think we are victims of tax fatigue, as you said. I think it was really unfair for the legislature to fund McCleary on the backs of property owners. And I was especially disturbed when a few days after the bond vote, the headline in the Herald was that the legislature was going to reduce property taxes. It's just, they need to find a different funding source. It needs to be a capital gains tax, an income tax, whatever. But I believe these results just show that voters do not want more taxes, more property taxes. I think the need is evident. I think we have a lot of support out there, but I, in many ways, don't blame the taxpayers for voting no, and we saw such an increase in the no votes. I mean, I think the message is clear. We can educate the community, we can make our needs known, but I really think the solution lies with the legislature to help us in this situation. I also think we might, as well as educating the community, put a lot of our efforts into making sure we can get, in the near future, the ability to pass a bond with a simple majority.
Or even, some of us were talking about the fact, even if it had been at 55.
Right.
We would have passed at 55, some others would have passed at 55. We don't need to go all the way down to 50, they can still make it a heavier lift. It just can't be that heavy of a lift.
Yeah. I think the challenge that it poses now is, when you look at the support was the same in 2016 as it was in 2018 in terms of those people that voted yes. And how do you move forward? Because if and I do agree that I've made a list of all the reasons why the bond didn't pass from all the conversations I've had with people, and it's long. But I do think that we all understand that taxes were a significant factor in this election. And to your point, Carol, it was very real. It was a lot of money for people. And I'm sympathetic to the scenario where you're living on a fixed income and all of a sudden you're being asked to pay hundreds and hundreds of more dollars. It's challenging for individuals. And so the question is, as you move forward, will we be successful with a bond measure until we get some relief in taxes? Or that people feel like there's more equity or it's fair? I don't know. So it's sort of, like I said, the support is good, and we're very fortunate to be in a district that has such strong parent and community support. And, when you run a campaign, you just have an opportunity to talk to so many people that are supportive of the work that you're doing. And that's very rewarding. But again, at the end of the day, it's the voters who decide on bonds and levies.
I do understand that we have this concern that we want parity throughout the district, and I understand that. That's very real, and I understand it very much. The only concern that I have is that when you have a district-wide referendum, whatever it is, it has to be communicated well so that people understand that it may not in the north be something that you need right there in the north, but it's needed for the entire district. We are a district.
So we don't put portables in front of Everett High School and ruin that facade.
We have to support the entire district because it represents our entire student bodies. And whatever we have to do, we have to be able to communicate that well so people understand that we may not need a high school in North Everett because we have Everett High here, but because our district is at a disadvantage in another region, we need to support that, and we have to state why. Why is that important? And communicate that well. So it isn't just a tit for tat, we're going to give you one here and we're going to give you there, but we have to be able to communicate it well because it is the entire district. And if our entire district isn't doing well, then, it's not. And you've got to be able to uplift the entire district. How do we do that? I don't know that. Being able to communicate that.
I also heard great response, I'm presuming you guys did too, about the so-called signature programs and those VOTEC opportunities at each of the schools. And maybe with the time, we can answer some of the questions about transportation, about homeschool, about magnet school, about, what would really be there. I think that continuing with those sorts of things as much as we are, great feedback, but with questions. Switch from the high school. And
yeah, I think the STEM programs generated a lot of questions, and including, isn't that what Snow Isle and Wannock. And why aren't we utilizing those facilities, or aren't we at capacity? And there was great support for the idea of the programs, but there were a lot of parents who had a lot more questions than I think maybe when initially we were prepared to answer. And it was challenging at times.
I think another challenge was kind of the condensed time frame of the election. And
yes.
I recall going to a session at WASDA where a district, I think it was Evergreen, no. Highline, was it? They did an amazing job of community outreach. It was a multi-year process, engaged a large segment of the community, but they were able to pass a significant dollar bond. But I think that's part of what we need to look at moving forward is we need to embrace those no voters and educate them and bring them along with us. And that's kind of what this.
And the non-voters.
Non-voters too, yeah.
Voters yeah.
So I think and focus on a little bit more broad community engagement too, depending on timing, of course, but something to look at.
The other thing I heard at Evergreen, I don't know if there is a role for communication from the district about, not at Evergreen, at Penny Creek. I appreciate the fact that several people think we have power to stop construction in the district, in the county, where we don't have such power. I would love it if we did, because then houses wouldn't be going up behind me. But I wonder if we could, if there is something that could come out for the district about, and I don't even know how you would word it, but about we see the construction, our hands are tied
One of
or
the
something.
things that I attended, it was at Monroe Elementary, in which the county planning people came in and provided an outlook for the county for the, till 2025. And I said, my goodness, this should have been presented to every community beforehand so that they could see, where the growth is growing, what they see too, and what their plans for.
Yeah.
Because some of the concerns that some of the parents had as far as, moving the urban growth boundary lines and where it wasn't going to be moved and when was it going to be moved, all those things would have come out so people could understand certain things, where the county's focus is turning to. All kinds of information will help people make a decision whether to support or not to support a bond from the school.
But I think that there's new construction going on Bothell Everett Highway, which I think is our property, our district, that looks like it's going to be more apartments.
Oh, yeah.
That they are still putting stuff in and selling land along 35th. I mean, and that we have no control. We have to take all comers and we have to find room for them.
And that's what providing the community outreach and communicate what's going on. And a lot of questions came up about impact fees. What are what are impact fees? How much do you really get from impact fees? All of that needs to be communicated.
Well, and also for the impact fees, I think that's the legislature, that's not us. And so where some states, we have a lot of people from other states that have come here where their impact fees pay for new schools. When new houses go in, new schools go in, that's not how our state is. And but that's long-term,
Right. I think these are all topics that we're going to want to discuss. We have our summer workshop, which, if we're discussing them, then suggests that we're probably not going to be running a bond in August. But these are great topics. I think tonight was just an opportunity to share sort of our thoughts on the results and a few ideas, but certainly we could probably talk for hours on sort of, ways to move forward, more information to provide to the community, what that might look like. And I look forward to that planning here. Will we be doing any of that at our special meeting at the end of the month, or?
We can if you like. What would you? We intended to present some post-election alternatives, directions, options, paths. Next year fundamentally wouldn't have been any different because of the length of time, but things start to change fairly dramatically, and you're going to have to decide at some point whether we put 30 portables on that Jackson campus, or whether we change boundaries, or whether we double shift, or whether we do some other things, because you won't be opening a high school in 4 years. And we certainly can, use that planning session. If you'd like to do that, we can present you alternatives at your regular meeting on the 20th. It really depends on how quickly you'd like to see options and give us direction, and how much time you'd like to spend talking about it and the setting.
And for one concern that I have is, if we were to wait until August to decide further what direction we're going to take, if you use that time frame and you back it up from the elections, the next possible election, you still end up getting into a situation where you don't have enough time to plan for an election.
I think we should use our special meeting coming up to have more of this conversation about what community engagement might look like, how we might go about deciding on when and what another bond might look like.
But to wait until August, I think that puts us in, we have been saying since 2013, we need a new high school. We've got to focus in on, that hasn't changed. And our community
But our
needs to
voters
know.
told us that they're not ready for a new high school.
But our community needs to know what's going to happen as a result of that decision that they've made. What's going to, how our kids are going to be impacted.
Yeah.
And that problem doesn't go away. That problem is still with us. We will still need a new high school.
Does that provide enough direction? I think I'm hearing that people want to have more of this type of discussion at our special board meeting.
Study session?
Study session.
Sure.
And I think I'd like to see the options of timelines, if it's, November 18, February 19, November 19, February 20,
You want a timeline for November 18?
No, options for, so we have.
What do you mean options?
What are the election dates that might be possible, so that we could back up from, what do we need to do? So how much time do we need?
Backwards planning?
Yes, the backwards design.
planning.
The backwards design that we hear in the schools, but we need to know, if there's an election November 18.
So for which dates would you like us to give you that type of a timeline? For which elections in the future? I would agree with you. August is not impossible, but impractical, thoroughly impractical. Then the next one would be November, and the next one after that would be February, and the next one after that would be April. April.
Yeah.
19. So for which dates would you like timelines built?
Yes, all three.
Well, so
For that discussion.
For the discussion.
what do you mean a timeline built?
What I just heard requested.
No, but what is a timeline? What do you mean?
Well, it says, generally we build you a timeline that says these things have to happen by these dates in order for us to have a ballot measure ready.
Okay, no, I understand what you're saying, but you're talking about the technical dates of filing and things like that?
Those kinds of things.
'Cause
we generally build you some ranges.
I think what we need to, I'm feeling like we need to have more discussion about what the outreach might look like. And then you kind of look at and say, okay, is that even, so for example, November, if we come back to school in, the first week of September, ballots are going to go out in October. That's probably not enough time for robust community engagement.
Your filing dates are on August 1st, too.
Oh, okay.
So we have to have a decision by July.
Yeah. So I personally would say that November is really not an option. And I would begin looking beyond that.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's like the next election or 2 years.
Yeah, and that's where I think if we had dates, then we decide.
You just want the dates of the elections?
I think because then we know what we need, we know how much time we need. So if what we decide we need to do is 19 months, then that doesn't even put us in 2019, that puts us in 2020. And so I think that's because this is a good conversation about what we need to do. November of 18 is off the table. So what is the next date? What is the next date? What is the next date based on what we think we need to do? But we need to know, I think, those dates.
And we can have some conversations around the different elections that are available and regardless of year, how some are more beneficial for, being able to engage our community than others.
Not only what we need to do though, but also what we'll have to do to compensate for not having a new high school, like portables.
Redistricting.
Rebounding.
What that looks like.
Rebounding, thank you.
And we can maybe talk a little bit about process, about is the way that we're going about currently planning a bond package the best way? Or, and there's a lot to learn from other districts and, I'll be spending some time looking at the districts that did pass bonds, Federal Way and North Shore and one other big district, Bellingham. And sort of what their timeline and community engagement looked like.
Somebody passed us.
You know who that was?
Did Washington pass theirs?
$695 million bond. Do you know who passed that? Is there a district? Evergreen? Yeah.
But it'd also be nice to see maybe what information district provided as well as levy the committee to see again where are some opportunities for what meets election requirements from the district and what meets what did the levy committee do? Is
that good?
I'd like to still see the timeline if we were to consider November. Timeline looks like.
I thought I heard consensus that there would not be a November 18 run. Therefore,
When's the filing for November?
It's the same date as the primary in August. So you'd have to approve a resolution at your July 3rd meeting unless you had a special meeting in July. So it's that
I think
quick.
that's probably not
and a lot of
doable.
process between now and then to figure out what you're going to put on that bond. Unless you really want to go for November.
And I think we're bumping up against a lot of very busy months for families and staff with end of school year to get, and then right into summer.
And then people do pay taxes again in October.
Then part of it depends on whether or not there's any way of getting data from anybody about why people voted the way they voted. Can't do that by law. Other people can. That might tell you something about what you would put on the package. But we'd have to give it to you. And soon. I'm hearing consensus that there be no November election. Even if it's a general, and the general might create a lot of turnout.
Correct.
Okay, so you'd like some of the key dates for February and April of 2019.
For say again?
And you like key dates for February of 2020, or do you just want them for April?
I would say April.
So April 2019,
Bond only.
April 2020? I did.
Past February,
I did, and
so-
I'm hearing no.
If we want to do February.
Well, I'm seeing others say no, and I'm looking for how much work we want to do between now and that
What about
session in terms
November?
of building timelines for you all.
I don't want to spend but what about November 19? Is that any kind of big election? I don't know if that's school board or if it's other.
School board. We'll have 2 positions.
So so it would be that April 19, February 19, April 20?
Well, I personally would pick April over February for a bond-only run. And
For a run that doesn't include an operating levy.
correct. Yeah, thank you. Just in terms of timing, certainly, I think that the holidays were a significant factor, and that ballots drop like the week that it's high school finals, and it's just a tough time. And so I would personally choose April over February if that was a choice. The November one is a question, I think, and a curiosity of mine, because I think a lot of it has to do with factors happening within our state and within the district at that moment, literally, kind of like this time where the tax thing kind of got out of hand. You know, we started down a path and then it kind of blew up a little bit once media coverage and things like that were a bit out of our control were in play.
So, which dates, Madam Chair, would you like?
I would say April and November for sure for the next 2 years.
April and November of 19 and 20?
Anyone have other thoughts, or I don't want to leave anything behind if you feel strongly about something.
2 Aprils, 2 Novembers. That's 4 timelines.
But I would keep the timelines pretty simple.
Yeah, very simple, so that we can fill in.
Yeah.
I really
think the conversation, I think, about leading up to it will help answer. Yeah.
Well, it's not like you can't do more afterwards.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a special meeting in March in the morning.
I thought
Morning?
that, no, we
Is it
already have
evening?
one. We already have one on the calendar.
When is this meeting? Remind me.
28th,
Of
27th?
The special work session on
E-
post-bond planning is
evening?
March 27th.
Is the evening one? You're the morning one. Yes, okay, thanks.
For budget planning.
Budget's always best in the morning. Good show.
On an empty stomach.
Yeah. Lots of
Okay.
extra coffee. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for those slides. We're now moving to 11.02, and Mr. Gunn is going to talk to us about safety and security updates, which is top of mind for most of us right now.
Thank you for that introduction. I will be joined here shortly by two other staff members, Larry Fleckenstein and Molly Ringo, and we will take turns covering various topics related to safety and security. The objective tonight is to provide you an update on the safety, security, and emergency preparedness measures that are being implemented in the district. We're going to try tonight to not so much focus on what has happened, but rather what is happening right now, to give you kind of a pretty much up-to-the-day update on where we are with these areas. We always have our strategic links to the strategic plan shown. Key elements of school safety, I wanted to just kind of walk you through these. We will be covering these in more detail in the following slides. The first one is physical safety. These are foundational, or this is foundational, goes hand in hand with providing safe and secure buildings and grounds. Physical safety being to the environment as well as to the person. Social and emotional well-being and relationships. These relationships really matter. Student to student, student to staff, and staff to community and law enforcement. And I could go on about these relationships. I think Molly and Larry will cover them in a lot more detail. Preparations and training, putting deliberate effort into preparing and training for those emergency activities and recovery events so that those involved know what to do. That's one of the best things we can do to help our staff and students be ready. Also communications, creating a coordinated response, a sense of calmness during these activities or events, and then also timely communications. So the first thing I'm going to cover is an update on where we are primarily with the work from the 2016 capital levy. That was the work item focused on the safety and security measures in our district. I have about 4 or 5 slides on this. So at Emerson, Garfield, Hawthorne, Jefferson, Lowell, Madison, Silver Lake, Whittier, Eisenhower, Gateway, and Jackson High School, we are going to be putting in, and I'm going to go through in quite a bit of detail individual schools here, so feel free to ask questions if you have them. I'm going to follow this slide and another slide with actually some graphics that will give you an actual look at a floor plan that would have examples of these things. So for the schools that I just mentioned, they will receive new interior doors with electric locks that will create new interior security vestibules. So it will become much clearer on the drawing that I'll show you here in just a minute. But think about this. We are putting new doors inside the hallways with electric locks that will create new security vestibules. So this is at the front doors where we have hallway situations that visitors, when they come in, they can go right into the hallway. Now, at the front entrance, what we're going to be doing is putting in doors so that they can't just walk down the hall to get to classrooms or cafeterias or gymnasiums. They will have to go through another set of doors that will be lockable electrically from the receptionist desk. So that's that first paragraph right there. The second paragraph is that at Forest View, Monroe, and View Ridge, there are already inter-office doors that lead into the schools. They will receive new hardware, new lock sets or devices on the doors that will be lockable, electrically or otherwise, that will create more secure entry vestibules. Again, the drawing I'm going to show you in just a minute will give you a look at that. So the third paragraph is new interior lockdown doors that separate public spaces from the private classroom wings at a number of schools, Hawthorne, Jefferson, Lowell, and Whittier. These doors, again, they're new doors. They will be put inside the buildings in the hallways that will provide better separation between areas. So, for example, if a person comes into a school, is agitated, and somehow gets past this security vestibule and down the hallway, the person at the front desk can hit a button and lock these doors. They'll be held open with magnetic locks that when you push the button, it releases the doors and they close, just like the ones in this building. At 4:30 every day, it closes, the doors shut, and that's accomplished by pushing a button. Those will be put into our schools, those 4 schools, at various locations, and those will provide another level of security in our buildings. So having said that, I'm going to show you now a drawing that gives you an example of those. You have seen this before, this drawing. So I'm just going to orient you to those 3 paragraphs by looking at this drawing. This is actually the Whittier Elementary School, and all the colored spaces you see are existing interior spaces of the school. This is an existing door. It's an exterior door, and so what we're showing there is that we would be putting video intercom system there, and also the access control system, which is what we have in this building that works with one of these ID badges. So staff members to get into and out of those doors have to use one of these. Otherwise, you have to push a button, and through this video intercom system, person at the front desk can see who you are, talk to you, and push a button and let you in. Okay, so remember I talked about at certain locations putting in new interior lockable doors that will be locked electrically from the front desk. That's a good example of what happens right here at this location. At Whittier Elementary School, if you go in there right now, once you get into the front doors, you can walk right down the hall, right past the front desk and down the hall. So we're going to be putting a set of double doors there that will have those electric locks, okay? Now, as you go down the hall right now, you get to this point and you can turn left or right. There's nothing that stops a person from doing that. We will be putting in, as shown here, a double set of doors at this location and at this location. These are the ones that will be held open like magnetically and will close down in the event of somebody in the office pushing that button. So these are examples of those 3 paragraphs that I just went through. All right, so moving on. Here's some other work that is underway. We're putting in new site perimeter fencing at 5 locations. So when I say site perimeter fencing, I'm not planning to put brand new fencing over the entire site, all the way around the perimeter and every place you could want it on the inside of the site. What we're planning to do is to put some new fencing at specific locations at some of our sites where we've been recommended by the police to put them to improve security. I should have mentioned that, we've been working really closely with Sergeant Reeves from the Everett Police Department, as well as Snohomish County Sheriff and Mill Creek Police Department, as well as our maintenance staff, our safety and security, our safety, district-wide safety committee, and a number of consultants to do all this planning and this work. We are also going to be this summer, we're planning to put in new security vestibules at, we call them the clone schools, Mill Creek, Silver Fir, Cedarwood, and Penny Creek elementary schools. We're going to try to get as much of that work done this summer as we can. We understand the urgency of security upgrades, and I know everyone wants these as soon as possible. We will do our best to put these in as quickly as we can. There's a little asterisk there. I wanted to point this out. It says, if you follow that footnote, expanded after the 2016 capital levy passage. By that it means that, and I've explained this a number of times, when we were talking with you originally about putting a capital levy on the ballot, we said for the capital levy projects, we will we will need some flexibility with that money to be able to do the most important work at the time that we actually spend the money, because it comes in over time. So with technology, for example, you don't want to be locked into what you thought you were going to spend it on 6 years ago when you actually get the money down the road. Same thing with security. So what that asterisk shows is that that one line there where it says new security vestibules, those we have decided to do after the levy passed, subsequent to the passage of that. So that's one of those examples where we've actually enhanced the planning for security. Same thing with the next item. We had more in-depth conversations after the levy passed with law enforcement and others, and one of the things that became really clear was that the most important single thing we can do with our schools is lock the front doors, or lock the doors. So this was a way for us to lock the doors. This new key card access and the video intercom systems, this is a way to lock the doors and not have to have somebody go and open up the door every time a visitor comes. They can actually, from a secure location, they can see and talk to whoever is at the front door and decide to let them in or not. So that was, again, that scope, that project was that, and that's at all of our sites. We do have some challenges with our high school locations, especially the campus-style individual buildings, Everett High School and Cascade. Cascade, you can do some work with fencing to kind of create that secure central area, but at Everett High School you cannot. It's separated by public streets. So we are still working on that. But anyway, another part of the projects that we're implementing is to, as we do the work in the bond for North Elementary 18 and Woodside, we will be doing those secure entry vestibules and the access control systems and the video intercom systems as part of those projects as well.
Regarding the key card
Yes.
access
Yeah.
at these school sites, what does law enforcement or what do people in security recommend as far as key card access for everyone in the district to every school, or is it only those individuals who work at that particular building that have access to that particular building and not to every other building? What do they say about that?
Well, I haven't asked them that specific question. I will say from a maintenance department's perspective, and they're the department that controls the keying, because really what you're saying is this is a key. Similar, the same thing as this is a key right here. So you're really saying that you're going to give everyone at the school a key, and we would say from a controls perspective, you only want the people that need to get into the building to have one of these for a building. One of the aspects of these things is you can turn them on or off for a location. And so if you lose one, you can just disable that entry, that number. So there's a lot more control with that.
Answered my question.
You're welcome. All right, so here is, and you've seen this one before. This is what we're going to what we are planning to do at these 4 clone schools: Mill Creek, Silver First, Cedarwood, and Penny Creek. I'll walk you through again. This red area right here is it's the area of the current principal's office. We're going to be taking that and converting that into a new entry vestibule from the outside by there's already a doorway there. We're going to make that the front door to the school. And we're going to put in, at this location, which is between the gymnasiums and the office building, as you walk between those, you can go usually left, usually to the gym, right, a little ways down, go on the right by the library to the office. We're going to have a secure locking gate there that people will need to, that will have one of these card access. I believe we'll have one there. I'm going to look at Darcy now. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Good answer. Thanks.
How you doing on time, Mike?
6 minutes and 26 seconds. I'm using up a lot of time. I'll speed this up. I apologize. Anyway, so basically it's going to be a remodel of the office area to flip the principal's office with the support staff in the space to make it so that the public visitors coming in will come in directly from the outside into that space. And it will have, so that will be the secure entry vestibule. It will also have the access control system and the video intercom system there. These are pictures of those pieces. The two on the left are the card readers that are actually installed on this building. The one on the left is down by the loading dock. The one on the right is downstairs in the garage. The two things on the right-hand side there is the phone with the screen that the secretarial staff in the front office will have. And then the device here is actually about 4 inches wide by 6 to 9 inches high, and it's what a visitor will see at the front door. They will be talking into that. The physical safety also continues, aside from the levee projects, digital radios. We just got the go-ahead to replace all the digital radios in the district. That means all the schools, staff, the administrative staff of the schools, as well as the custodial maintenance staff and security staff will have the same radios, be able to communicate with each other as long as they're within range. Right now, they all use pretty much different systems. Security video cameras, we're continuing to expand our systems. And then also material safety data sheets just on kind of a different way of looking at things. We have recently gone online with information about the hazardous materials or other kinds of materials that may be located in our schools. The materials in the walls and the ceilings, the floors, as well as the science cabinets and things like that. They're called material safety data sheets. That's all online now. It wasn't before. We've also added another, a third after-hours security staff person, a roving security patrol that we can rely on to help us patrol the district. Just real quickly, we've also had discussions, not concluded them, but we are still having them around those 6 or 7 bullets there, changes to classroom door hardware, safety film to strengthen glass, additional security staff, as well as school resource officers, visitor management system, as well as options to improve the security for the open campus style layouts like Everett High School and Cascade High School. With that, I'll ask Larry to go through a few of the slides. Thanks.
Well, a key component of student safety is their social-emotional well-being. And although it's often overlooked as a security or safety measure, it is primary to each individual student's well-being at school and their feeling of security about the relationships and the support that they have with the adults that surround them. We know that students who struggle in school socially or emotionally are more frequently need additional support for their mental health and social well-being. And to support that this year, we've added 5 additional campus security officers to our secondary schools to enhance our monitoring of students' social well-being and provide our students another caring adult at school that they can connect with and seek out for help if they need it. In addition, our campus security officers continue to work side by side with their school administrators and school resource officers in their monthly safety team meetings and administrators' school resource officer meetings to proactively manage a safe school campus. We are fortunate to have a partnership with CMAR Health Services and recently renewed our agreement with them to continue to provide therapist support in our secondary schools, which included a pilot program this year to support 2 of our elementary schools. In addition, we use our second step social emotional curriculum in elementary and middle schools to build students' resiliency by learning key skills in problem solving, empathy, self-regulation, and emotional management. Our work school district-wide in all of our schools this year to develop our positive behavior intervention supports, or PBIS systems, is enhancing a positive school environment. PBIS sets clear expectations for student behavior and builds relationships between students and staff. This fosters a greater sense of belonging and connection to the schools, which are key indicators of a student's sense of, which are key indicators of a student's academic and social success. Additional time has been allocated for the health room assistance this year at our elementary schools. This has expanded our ability to meet the needs of our students who are stressed or anxious during the school day, to have a calm place and a caring adult to help them self-regulate and get back into learning. It has also helped us to more promptly meet the needs of our students who have health conditions that must be attended to during the school day. As we continue to strengthen our supports and relationships with our students, we also actively seek out and partner with our community. These community relationships matter and make a difference for our students in our schools. This year, we have begun training and preparing our school leaders on restorative practices to student behavior that maintain positive relationships with students, even if they've had a misstep during the school day. We're also grateful for the partnership that we have with our Everett Police Department, Mill Creek Police Departments, and Snohomish County Sheriff's Departments. We've recently begun our review of school officer handbooks and expectations on our campuses. We've also embarked most recently on support with law enforcement for social media misuse and how we can educate our students and help them become and intervene on students who are misusing social media to get them back into the school environment and restore that positive relationship with the school. We also appreciate the work we've done this year with Snohomish County Health Department, who supplied us with portable emergency opioid needle pickup kits for our schools to ensure that our schools and adjacent grounds are safe as students come to and from school.
Well, continuing on with the theme about relationships and the importance of relationships, we're very fortunate in Everett to have a number of resources locally. Being the county seat gives us great access to many that most districts do not have the proximity to. We have been working on expanding and deepening these relationships and finding ways to partner in new ways. For instance, we are now including the Red Cross, the City of Everett's Department of Emergency Management, Everett Community College in actual training exercises and planning, so how we can go deeper with our work in different ways and how we may access and partner with them for resources if there's the events arise that require that. Recently, we had a call center training and brought in folks and expanded their perspectives as well as ours. We've also, I think, benefit from the aspect of how we may support others. For instance, in the partnership with Everett Community College, if there's an event on their campus, what resources we have in our midst, such as our call center or EOC here that they do not have, and how we can partner that. We also look at how they can bring in additional staff through our training to help support us if we have an extended event. And of course, we've had a strong partnership for several years with 911, and that is unique. Many school districts do not have that relationship, and we're fortunate because it has informed their practices to better be able to respond to events that arise here even on a day-to-day basis. Preparation and training are really essential. It's ongoing work. We're continuing to reinforce, do renewed run, hide, fight, reunification drills. We'll have one at the end of this month, an exercise with Jackson Elementary, using parents and other parents in the district to participate as surrogate parents with the students to fine-tune and practice some changes that we've had in our processes. Our operations center, we continue to practice and drill with that. Coming up in April is a unique training opportunity through the Snohomish County Department of Emergency Management in planning and anticipating large sport events or events such as graduation at Xfinity that we engage in with outside training from Texas for 2 days. We'll be taking a team of 8. I think we kind of probably took a couple different agency slots, really trying to involve folks from our high schools as well as district staff. We have some upcoming training with district leadership and superintendent's leadership with a video called Coming Storm that is very realistic in terms of a major shooting event and how it all unfolds with the whole scenario. And then coming up for a whole year, starting in September and running through October of 19, is what's known as a South Whidbey Island Fault exercise and training that will partner with both the city and Snohomish County Department of Emergency Management. Those are county-wide exercises, and what does it mean for us as a school district and how we integrate with that. So looking for opportunities to partner in different ways so we can prepare in a wide range of activities to respond. What you see is a photograph of the call center training that included folks from Everett Community College, John Bonner, their Director of Security, Chuck Macklin, and some other staff, for instance. Communications is essential, and we continue to work on refining and developing our communications process. As you know, the district communications app is also a great tool and resource to help us communicate in the event of emergencies with our parent community. A new one, what you see right up here at the top in the top right-hand corner, is a safety center. It is a new module to one of our existing software's programs called School Dude that will consolidate into one location a variety of our emergency response plans, and we'll be able to have differentiated access ranging from parents to certain information to law enforcement partners to different levels in the district. Some of us travel around with a case of notebooks and different hard copy materials, but remotely any of us could pull up, for instance, the plans for Jackson Elementary or Jackson High School and a variety of our different plans that reside in hard copies. So we're looking forward to that and beginning the implementation process next week with rolling it out and anticipate being live for the start of school for next year with that. Rave Command View, we continue to partner and innovate with Rave Mobile Safety, which was a product that we came into partnership several years ago. This is a component that would allow us to essentially to have almost the same view that 911 does, either here in the EOC or at schools. And then one that we've been increasing our use, and that is Rave with our school buses, and we've been using it with our district buses, and we're increasing the number of reports and incidences and response. Back a couple of slides was a photograph of the Transportation Department practicing training with 911, so the partnerships and the training processes and exercise and getting that staff up to speed with how to use it in their office as well as drivers on hand. So we're finding continued uses of the different tools that we have.
Go ahead and stand here, Mark. And that concludes our presentation, and we are ready for questions if you have any, or welcome your comments.
Thank you.
Yes.
Directors. Student representatives. Let's start with one. Running a little long, and then we'll see.
I know we are running long. Okay, actually, they don't have to be questions. I'll tell you my concerns. I don't need answers now. Portable safety came up at Jackson, especially for adding portables, and how do announcements of things go out to the portables? Again, I don't need an announcement now. I'm being brief. Second thing is Eisenhower had the nice signage with the voice box thing, but I'm just concerned about signage and communication out to families as we're locking down these schools. And third thing is the schools that have the doors that open out into the hallway and you lock them by a key. Had a lockdown drill at Cascade when I was there one time, and the teacher just mentioned they have to go out in the hallway, use their key to lock the door, and then close the door. What are we doing to do that? Because I heard that was a concern at the school in Florida too, about how doors lock in high schools. So I don't need answers.
Thank you.
I'd like the answer to that door locking question.
Oh, well, that's your time then.
I would like that. An answer. Do our teachers actually have to go out into the passageway in order to lock the door, then go back in?
Some of our schools, that is the case.
So are most of the classrooms locked once students come in for class, so they're locked and you have to knock on the door in order to gain entrance?
Some are. I would not say, I don't know enough to say that many of them are. We will answer that question in more detail.
Kids come and go all day long, I think, in the classroom. So.
Understood.
Yeah.
But it's, if something were to happen, to have the teacher leave the classroom and go out to lock the door to come back in.
That's part of the conversations that we have on the list of topics, and there's pros and cons.
Yes, that was one of those bullets that I had for continuing conversation around changes that we could consider making to the door hardware, the locks and other devices in our schools and on the doors.
Questions or comments for you?
This whole conversation leaves me with a knot in my stomach, quite honestly. But I applaud you on everything you have done. It is comprehensive, and I recall going to a session at WASDA where the board from Marysville spoke, and they said that the safety training they had done, the preparedness, it all made a huge difference. So I applaud you, and it's the communications is remarkable, the safety measures we're taking, the relationships, everything is so important. And I'm just sitting here thinking about the expense of this too. I mean, I'm sure it's not considered in the definition of basic education, and our students have to feel safe, and it's our duty. So that's why I have a knot in my stomach. It just is a very sort of disturbing need that we have in our schools now. But I'm comforted, and I'm sure that other people listening to this presentation will be comforted as well to know that our district is going to such extents to provide for the safety of our students. And I feel like, I've seen the safety drills we've had where you do the reunification exercises and all that, and it is just excellent preparation. So again, thank you. I hope that we can see some change in our society for greater gun control, so we don't need to go to the extent that we have to go to now. But thank you. It's a great presentation.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much for giving us this presentation. You went over the physical safety, you went over the preparations and the trainings that we've done. You've talked about the communications and who we have partnered with in the community, because it's not just law enforcement, but it's all of the other community organizations that provide some type of coordination response for any kind of drill or provide resources. But what I'm very happy about is that you provided the socio-emotional well-being and relationship building component to this, because it's very important that our parents and our families out there understand that sometimes, as it has happened in a neighborhood just to the west of us, where it was a parent who reported something in regards to the emotional well-being of an individual first off, that then cause the reactions to take place, and that's very important. And relationships are what brings students to school, and those relationships need to be very strong for students to feel safe or available to talk to someone. And so I'm glad we are doing that. That's very, very vital. And so I'm glad we're connecting with all those elements, and I thank you very much for this, because I would much rather be on the proactive side than on the reactive side. And I think it's important that, any kind of emergency, whether it's an earthquake or whatever, any kind of emergency, you're going to have to be reacting to it. But if you've trained and you've practiced and you've communicated and you have all of these plans in place before, maybe that reactive strategy is not so disharming or alarming, and that it's just going through the motions of reacting and not being negatively impacted much.
Thank you very much.
I have two questions that I think, similar to Tracy's, are something for future. One, I'm curious what we're doing at the school site to inform parents of these upgrades, the physical upgrades that we're doing. Some are obviously quite obvious when you put up a fence, but some of the added security of card keys and things, and some of them will come in contact with the video equipment, but how do we promote this at the school site? Just because I think district-wide safety and security updates in general, broad sense, are great, but I think really it's important for parents to really understand where their children go to school and the measures we're taking to keep them safer each day. And so I'm not sure how that happens, but I would like to know more about that. And then the other one was, in looking at future bond planning, I'm certain there are schools that weren't mentioned here today that could benefit from card key access and video surveillance and some of those other features that you're putting in some of these schools. And I know not all the campuses are similar and some don't lend themselves to some of this, but what would those be to create equity across the district? And what would that dollar figure look like if we wanted to put that as part of a future bond?
All right.
Or capital levy?
I'm going to consider those questions in the same light as
Yes, that
Director
was what they were
Mitchell's, where
intended.
We will come
Yeah.
back to you with some information. Okay, thank
Great.
you. Thank
Thank
you
you
for your
very much.
comments and questions.
Oh,
yes.
sorry. I was waiting for people to jump in, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I get a little self.
Lots to talk about tonight. Let's see, we are moving through unfinished business, section 12.0. We do not have any unfinished business tonight, which brings us to section 13.0, new business. And I believe Mr. Fleckenstein has has policies for us to review.
Well, to begin this evening, the proposed revisions to policy 1114, oath of office, are based upon the WASDA model policy update release in December 2017. They are brought forward to the board this evening to provide greater clarity, specifying that newly appointed or re-elected board members must take or retake the oath of office. The proposed revisions to policy 1114, oath of office, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions?
We were already doing that.
Yeah.
It wasn't written for us.
We were already doing it. It was not in everyone's policy and apparently not in ours as well. We were doing it. It just wasn't stated in policy. So with that, we will move it to second reading.
Thank you. Revisions to policy 2213, transitional bilingual instruction, is presented to the board this evening to provide consistency and alignment with the federal Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, and guidance from the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction regarding English learner programs and Washington State's English language proficiency assessment. The revisions to this policy are minor in scope, with an emphasis on instructional program policy language. In addition, a revision of the title from Transitional Bilingual Instruction to Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program is proposed. Proposed revisions to Policy 2213, Transitional Bilingual Instruction, have been reviewed by legal counsel, categorical programs, and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Directors, any questions, or student representatives, any questions on this policy revision? With that, we will move this one to second reading as well.
Thank you. The proposed revisions to policy 4220, Citizens Advisory Committees and Task Forces, update the policy language to align with our current terminology and practices related to our district advisory councils. In Everett Public Schools, we have 11 distinct advisory councils, whose members include both district and community partners. We also have one current task force, our Elementary 18 Boundary Committee, that is composed of 26 members of the school and parent community with the support of district facilities and planning staff, who are working on an elementary reboundary proposal for the board's future consideration. In addition, a revision of the title from Citizens Advisory Committees and Task Forces to Advisory Councils, Committees, and Task Forces is proposed. The revisions to Policy 4220, Citizens Advisory Committees and Task Forces, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions on this policy 4220? Hearing none, we will move policy 4220 to second reading.
And finally, this evening, proposed revisions to policy 6905, site acquisition, are drafted to comply with Senate Bill 5049 that became effective July 23, 2017, that established a uniform policy for the fair and equitable treatment of all persons and property owners impacted by public works projects based upon changes made to Chapter 8.26 RCW, Relocation Assistance, Real Property Acquisition Policy. The proposed revisions to Policy 6905, Site Acquisition, have been reviewed by Legal Counsel, the Facilities and Planning Department, and the Superintendent's Cabinet prior to tonight's meeting. And on the screen for you is the majority of those changes derived from revisions to that RCW.
Directors, do you have any questions regarding this policy? And representatives? No, apparently not. With that, we will move 6905 to second reading.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That takes us to 13.05 property acquisition settlement, and we're going to table this until after our executive session at the end of the meeting. With that, we move to section 14.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Cohn, what are our upcoming agenda items?
Item 14.1 is your next special meeting. It is tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. at Angel of the Winds in Everett. It is the Everett Public Schools Foundation Annual Benefit Breakfast. We look forward to seeing you there. I know it's really hard not to say Xfinity Center.
I know.
Item 14.2 is a special meeting on the 13th of March. And that is your budget development workshop. I believe this one starts at around 7:30 in the morning.
Not around.
Okay, right. Exactly. And Mr. Moore is designing some sort of wonderful breakfast for you. You have a regular meeting on the 20th of March. It will include a strategic progress monitoring item on college, career, and life readiness indicators. You have all of the items that just came to you on first reading coming back to you on second reading, and I believe we're going to have a few more policies for first reading. You have a board goal report, which was postponed in your annual calendar from tonight to next meeting. Then you're going to have a communications update, and you've got some contracts coming to you. We've got a ledge update for you, and then the following month we'll have sort of a legislative outfall conversation. So here's what they did, and then later it's after OSPI has analyzed it and given us data, here's what it really means. So that it's really in two parts. So that's what things look like on your.
Is there still a student tech summit tomorrow night?
Yes, there
yes,
is.
two of you have decided you want to go.
Meeting,
no, because two of you are going.
Okay.
Yeah, we've
Thank
taken
you.
it off the special meeting calendar because
Only two of us.
Only two of you
Okay.
plan on going and quietly observing, like little mice. Yeah. Okay. Mouse-like.
Is it
We're
a
gonna be very
wear jeans?
mice-like.
I'll be coming from
Meeting?
the saucer,
No.
so I'll be looking nice.
Yeah.
That's student, there's only two of us.
Yep. Correct.
It's you and I.
It should be on your calendar.
It's on my
Should
calendar.
be on
I
your
just want to
calendar.
make sure.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
You should be able to go in there and see who's exactly who's
I saw
signed up for it. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Brings you to 15.1.
Yes, and tonight we do have an executive session. We will adjourn to.
You'll adjourn to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to litigation to which you as the governing body are a party. And we expect this to last approximately half an hour.
20 or
Let's call it 20 minutes.
It's 20 minutes on the agenda.
The
but-
counsel's going to be with you, and we're going to adjourn to the conference room, the board conference room. Yes, ma'am. It'll probably take you 5 minutes to get there, so we'll come back in 25 minutes, or we'll send somebody out to extend. So you'll start this thing around 7:35, which means you should be done by
7:50.
7:55, and then hopefully you can come back out here and take action. So action is expected to follow this executive session.
Thank you.
Back in session, and you called the meeting to order. Your motion would be to remove 13.5 from the table, and once that's approved, then your motion would be to adopt the recommended action in 13.5, which you should now be able to see on your screen. I'm presuming that it refreshes itself, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
Hit refresh.
You have to hit refresh. And you know where the refresh key is? Oh my gosh, where'd the refresh key go?
Upper left.
It's upper left now.
No.
By the house.
I was looking for it too, and I finally
It's
found
by
it.
the house.
Yeah.
Can I look over your shoulder because I put my computer away?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sorry, my
Nope,
bad.
no problem.
So we're doing two motions? We're doing two motions, you said, to?
Well, by general consent, you lay this on the table.
Okay, so by general
Items on the
consent,
table.
we have replaced 13.05.
And removed from the table.
Okay.
Does anybody object?
Does anybody object?
And by general, then you've removed it from the table, and now you need to decide what to do with it.
Okay. And now I call for a motion to approve.
Yes. Do you ask someone to move the recommended action?
I'd like to call for a motion. Recommended action.
So moved.
There a second?
Second?
Been moved by Director Andrews and seconded by Director Mitchell to adopt the recommended action 13.05.
Which says that the Board of Directors approves the settlement agreement establishing the purchase price and related expenses to be paid by the district for acquisition of property located at 4428 174th Street Southeast, Bothell, Washington. Period.
Move to a vote.
Unless you'd like to have discussion.
Is there any discussion prior to voting? Hearing.
The motion is purchase price and related expenses. To clarify, does not include moving expenses.
That's correct.
The settlement agreement includes the process to resolve that remaining issue.
So the purchase price, includes you got the purchase price and the attorney fees.
Sorry.
And then you've got the language in the settlement agreement to settle those moving expenses.
Correct.
So it's all loaded into that language.
Authorize permission to settle.
Yes, because that's what's in the settlement agreement.
My biggest concern regarding this particular action is that it was my belief, I'll say it that way, it was my belief that certain expenses are part of related expenses. And for those expenses, such as relocation, humanitarian concerns, to be removed out of this particular purchase price and action, in my opinion, does not reflect what my original belief was in approving reconsideration of this purchase price agreement. Say it that way.
Okay. Further questions or concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries.
Any abstentions?
Oh, that's obvious. There's no one left.
Yeah, well.
For the voices.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for a long day.
Do we need to now enter a copy of the settlement in the record?
You just send it to me on a PDF and we'll load it up.
Okay, thank you.
But I think, don't there need to be some signatures or something?
No, I signed.
Okay.
You.
I'm not gonna scan it. Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Good job. Thank you, everyone. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Am I going to see good stuff at the Garfield saucer tomorrow, like I did last year?
Yes.
I'm going to cry again, or make them cry again. I didn't mean to make them cry last year.
I don't know.
I was so impressed.
They're very impressive. We have no other business on the agenda, ma'am.
This, that now concludes the business to come before the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.